Hey, looks like I'm live. I'm not sure if my mic is on. Mic is on. I am off camera here. Let me set up the chat real quick and then we can get started. This is a very difficult position to hold for 2 minutes after leg day. My God. Oh, wrong software. Anyway, guys, okay, that's there. Am I just looking at the wrong thing? That's that. There we go. Okay. I am here. It is very bright right now. I think my remote's upstairs. But I'll just turn it off for a bit. Uh sorry for the delayed launch, guys. I had to get some food in me. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna do back. We're gonna talk about Dick. And we'll go from there. This weekend was not that fun, if I'm gonna be honest. I drove an hour to be stood up by one of my old friends, so he is no longer a friend. But I guess I also worked a shit ton this weekend too. But anyway, we're here now, so let's talk Dick. I haven't really done much PE wise other than pump and extend, so can't really give you an update on that other than I'm just slowly getting bigger. There's the chats. Okay, I have to have the window open to see him come in. Pop in. Finally close to getting my PMP pump. I'm very sorry about the wait. Oh, and it was the custom issues. So we are going to be working on that next year. Like, the goal is my wife is going to quit her job effective end of January next year, and she's going to be focusing all of Europe expansion. So we'll be getting pumps and everything else there relatively soon. But again, thank you for buying for now. It's just quite annoying to deal with. I heard Cialis is better than Viagra. Is Blue Chew and Hims Cialis or Viagra? Yeah, so I personally take Cialis, or what is it? I think it's sildenafil. You're gonna have to double check me on that. That's the generic name. The way pharmacies or drug companies work is that there's gonna be branded stuff, usually made by the developers. So you're gonna have Cialis. I think that's YSK. Definitely wrong about that. And then Vicefert owns Viagra. After about 10 to 20 years, their exclusivity rights expire, and then generics can go on the market, but they can only be under as the generic name. They can be branded to be part of a different company. So, example, Blue Chew will be giving you Cialis or Viagra just in a generic name. Cialis is tadalafil. Thank you, Deborah. But that's one of the few things I've never been good at is remembering that name. It's been 5 years since I've been talking about this shit, and I can never remember the generics. Did you see the new GB post criticizing your games of the year? Probably not, because I blocked them. Listen, I can only speak for myself, but I measured pretty generously at the very beginning of my PE career. I corrected for it, and then I did seeded for a bit, and I corrected for it, and that was about it. Progress isn't linear. If people are gonna have a problem with it, fine. But my thing is, it's like, yeah, I know I made mistakes along the way, but unlike everyone else in this field, not everyone else, but a large portion of people in this field, I'm consistent with my logging, and I will make the corrections as needed if I was wrong with how I was measuring, or if the community wants me to measure a different way. I'm also going to report when I lose size because that's the only right thing to do. But like, I don't know. Jeff A, sorry BE about this is a dumb question to start the manuals routine from your latest videos. If that manual stretches only that no fatigue or strain stretches, please explain that to an idiot like me. So you are only doing 20 minutes of PE at most a day, right? You don't need that stuff right away. That stuff is going to be for metrics for when you actually need to worry about strain and fatigue. But like, you're going to be getting releases of growth factors and a lot of fatigue very early. There's going to be levels to this stuff. So at the very beginning, strain, fatigue rate, all that stuff, you don't have to worry about. Now, about 4 to 6 months from now, when you start getting a little more advanced and you start seeing your game slow down, that's when you want to dial in your routines to make sure. But like, for the most part, if you're doing enough stretching and enough of the massage mechanics, your tissues will change shape. It's kind of like a foregone conclusion to me. To grow tissue is going to require different work, though. All things considered, safety results ease. Is pumping the best way to go for gherkins? Yes, solely because you can control how much pressure you're using. Unlike clamping, you have no idea how much pressure you're using, and you're not putting, with pumping, you're not putting all that pressure right on the nerves. So, in general, it is safer. But, yeah, that's all I can really say. Sorry, I'm just thinking about the hate post, but I'm chewing, so it takes some thought process for me. How long do the benefits of Tunic malleability last? If I do manuals after Tunic malleability, I also have benefits when pumping if I pump after my manual. So you got about 2 hours before the tissue returns to baseline. And what that means is like if you stretch, you're going to be about 2 hours longer for 2 hours afterwards. If you pump, the tissues are going to be expanded for 2 hours after the edema finally dissipates. So, if you apply the same logic to Tunic release, you can do it about 2 hours beforehand with no real issue. Are fatigue sets needed for length work? Says that one. And I'll get to you in a second, Geos. No, fatigue sets are not necessarily needed. Fatigue sets make it more efficient is how it works. So the more often you load the tissue, the more often you get chances of collagen failure. That being said, people have gained without doing fatigue sets. It just usually takes them about 20 to 30 more minutes in their routine to see the same kind of results that I would see in the same time frame with fatigue sets. Geos, hello. I was wondering, I got the vacuum kit. Do I hang for as long as I would wearing an ADS, or is it shorter? So there's a spectrum to tension, right? Anything below 1 pound, you should only be doing for 2 to 6 hours. That's going to be training for shape. Anything over 1 pound is going to be relatively high tension, and that's going to lead to tissue development. Depending on the weight, and I usually say anywhere from 5 pounds to 15 pounds, you're going to be doing that for anywhere from 20 minutes to an hour. That's going to be how you use the vacuum hanger. Other phone. City, can non-ischemic priapisms cause growth, or does ischemic priapism the only one that causes growth? Non-ischemic priapism would mimic pumping. So like you can get the mild expansion that way, and that's going to slowly cause shape changes and potentially tissue growth of collagen, but you won't get not as much blood vessel development as you would with hypoxic clamping. In general, if you have a pump, I usually recommend using the pump for that stuff, and then hypoxic clamping would be afterwards because it's going to be much better at developing that blood flow restriction response. I wish you didn't tell me about that post, my guy. You got me thinking about it, and I just want to see. I'm not seeing an actual post. Are you talking about the comments? Because like I'm on my personal account, so I have no one blocked there. All right. Yeah, so I was like concerned that someone was just being disingenuous about me publicly, but more so because it's a headache rather than people are talking shit about me, because then I have to defend myself for months after the fact. Again, I can handle it. It's just like I got a lot going on right now. I'd rather not have to talk about stuff I did 4 years ago for no particular reason other than someone doesn't like me. Did I bring my protein shake down here? We'll find out. I still have my pre-workout to drink. We're going to be sitting here for a bit, guys, so make sure those questions keep coming. Let's see. That one, since we were just talking about it. So 10 for 30-second fatigue sets save 20 to 30 minutes. That's what I've noticed. Like, I haven't done a direct comparison on just hanging an hour straight versus doing sets and reps like I taught with the interval length protocol. But my results came in much faster, and based off the time I used to do, which would have been about an hour of hanging, the 30 to 40 minutes I did without vibrations, mind you, would have the same results as 60 minutes of hanging. So that's why I'm like, this is clearly more effective to me, and I don't even really need to do an A/B test because I'm more concerned about growing than rather proving stuff wrong. So if it's growing faster one way, why would I go back to the old way to like waste a month, right? But needless to say, that's what I've noticed. Zode. I'll get to you and Pepin in a second. What is the average turnaround time from order to receipt when ordering a box from PMP? I ordered yesterday, and I'm excited to start my routine. So, the past month has been absolutely nuts with orders. Like, in the past 2 months, PMP has doubled in order volume. And it's all because of you guys, so thank you. But because of that, that run on demand has made us have like a 2 to 3 back order originally. Now, I forced through 2 months worth of product within that should be getting to us in like, I don't know, 10 days at most. So like if you don't get it shipment confirmation this week, it'll be next week. Again, I'm very sorry about the wait. Like, it pisses me off more than anything because we want to be the best at all aspects, whether it be price, customer service, or shipping. But like, you guys have made us you caught us off guard of how much demand there was going to be, essentially. So thank you. But again, please be a bit patient if you don't get a confirmation right away. Let's see. You recommend a cock ring after pumping. Will getting hard and putting a cock ring on do anything after manual stretches? More than likely, yes. So think about it this way. The cock ring is going to force your erection to be as big as possible. And then when you stop the whatever stimulation, that distension is going to stick around. If your average time erect is only about, let's say, 10 to 20 minutes a day, and then we add another 10 to 20 minutes of distension with that, we're basically doubling the time in that shape. And that's going to lead to better changes in size long term. Now, if you're doing what I do, and that's 30 minutes of pumping total, and then 30 minutes of cock ring wear after all of those sessions, you're basically going from 20 minutes to 60 minutes, and then you get all the distension afterwards as well. So that could be anywhere from an hour total distended to 4 to 6 hours in a bigger shape, just depending on how you want to look at it. So yeah, wearing a cock ring right after manuals, particularly if you do like mod jokes beforehand, is going to be much more effective for girth. Titan sovereign. I think the difference in your measurements due to the measurements being standing an angle of the roller. I do believe I've grown. So like, I made clone willies for this purpose, right? Like, I knew I wasn't going to be the most consistent. So like, I have my blue one that's about 7 inches long, and then my pink one is about 7.5, maybe 7 3/4 from what I remember. I've been trying to make a new one, but it has been really hard to get like a good tube for it because basically I'm so this is going to be real flex, but like, I'm too thick for the tube. So at the base, like the first 3 inches is just dick, so therefore no molding powder can touch it. And then since it's so close to the sides on the way up, the molding powder kind of collapses when I take my dick out. So I need to like find a water bottle that I need to cut to shape that is just big enough, like say 7.5 inches around instead of 7, and then use that. But on top of all this, I'm trying to do basically my own Clone a Willy kit for Peak Male Physique, so I'm doing product research on that. I have literally bought like, I don't even know how much sodium alginate to test, but like more than enough that I would need for like a decade of making clones just for myself, and then enough molding powder or silicone mix for dildos to like sell at least 6 of them. So like once I get that worked out and like the ratios of what we want, it will be on peak mouth physique. So like I know my games have been all over the place reported, but like my clones are like my genuine baseline, and like my glands are at least an inch and a half longer than what they are on the pink clone. So like on a comparison, like I sent Red a picture of it yesterday because he likes this stuff. He is of he's gay is a good way to put it, and he finds me quite attractive. But I was just kind of showing him my results over the years, and he can speak for it before I make a post. I don't like making too many posts about myself on Reddit because then that's when I get a lot of hate. Anyway, how am I? I am very tired. Basically, I've been doing 12-hour days for the past 10 days, and I got to get ready for my vacation in the next 2 weeks or so, so it's going to be another couple long-ass weeks. But other than that, I'm very good. We're having a record month across the board on business and everything else. And again, I couldn't do this stuff without you guys, so like I'm grateful from the bottom of my heart. And I'm finally turning around my YouTube stuff. I'm just tired is really a good way to put it. JT, in terms of fat, is there any real way to lower the amount down there? My non-bone press and bone press lengths are almost 2 inches apart. I'm a bit overweight, but not so much that I'm obese or anything. So fat is going to be genetically distributed. Sometimes it's going to be affected by hormones as well. If you are cut, there is a good chance you have a tight circumcision, which is pulling up base skin, making it hard for you to actually measure your insertable size. What I would recommend is if you're circumcised, do a bit of foreskin restoration to like bring the skin down. You don't have to be completely restored, but just gain like an inch or two of dick skin. Going to make your dick look a lot bigger, speaking from experience. And then there's something called cavitation therapy, and I've been trying to like log my most recent foray with it, but basically you use sound waves to melt fat. It's like cool sculpting, except you can do it at home, and it's much safer to do at home. I did it back in 2021. I went from 1-inch fat pad to a 1/2-inch fat pad in that time, and I'm trying to figure out a way to make it more effective, and it really just comes down to how much power the machine's using. So like once I actually get good results, particularly on my abdomen, I'll have a video up to share with you guys. Okay, Farmer Rick, does pumping with a sleeve less effective? I can go to about 30 kilopascals, so almost 40 kilopascals with a sleeve to have the same feeling of intensity. Okay, so like, are you talking a sleeve the entire length of the shaft or a sleeve just at the base? The sleeve is going to make things a lot more comfortable most of the time, unless you're like exceptionally thick at the base. The pump sleeve is going to make it so you can press deeper into the pelvis without the sharpness of the acrylic, right? What was I saying? That's perfectly fine. It's going to be just as effective as normal pumping. If you can do more pressure, it might not be your best bet, but like in general, there's going to be no difference in effectiveness. If you're using a sleeve the entire length of the shaft, that's where it might be limiting effectiveness, but for girth, because you're like compressing against the tunica, if you have that extra force pushing against the tunica girth-wise, that pressure is going to build upwards. It's a very rudimentary way to do length pumping. I don't recommend it. So if you're doing that, don't. Okay. I want to see if I'm doing pumping correctly. My corpora cavernosa, so the top part, okay, sorry, brain fart, is bigger than it was before the pump and minimal edema. Does this sound okay? You are having all positive effects. You could probably go until you get a bit of edema. That being said, you would only know if it's being effective a month to 2 months from now, when the gains finally come in. So IDK, have you seen what Pornhub has done? But are you videos on anything else? Because I think I've been putting the vacuum belt wrong on. So I can put the vacuum bell video on my form more than likely. Let me text Red to make sure he reminds me to do that. Hey, remind me later to upload the vacuum hanging guide to the forum so people that don't have access to Pornhub can get it. I'm streaming now. If you need money for shipping, let me know. I'll try to pay attention. And I think they're just sending us samples because I didn't order anything special. Sorry about that, guys. Minor business stuff. Why is air pumps better than the water ones? So, two reasons. One, air pumps have a gauge. If your water pump has a gauge, it's probably just as effective and is safe. With an air pump, though, right now, you can turn it into a water pump by just putting like a cup of water in it and pump laying down. Therefore, you don't have to worry about the water getting into the gauge. Okay, that's the main thing. Is that water pumps are going to be way more vertical, way more versatile than a bath mate, for example, because you can only really use a bath mate with water. With an air pump, you can literally use any kind of medium, including mineral oil, and it won't really be an issue. Maybe mineral oil might eat at the acrylic, but you get what my point is that bath mates in particular are only good for water, and therefore they're only really good for the convenience of doing it in the shower. Meanwhile, air pumps you can literally do anywhere. Let's see. Is that LD007? Yeah. Do you do cardio? Yes. If so, what is your preferred method? So normally it's cycling. So like I go to Planet Fitness, I will wake up before anyone else, essentially get in there, do my cardio, and then I'll do a bit of fluff work for my arm. So that's going to be about 20 minutes right now. All this is fasted. It's not necessarily that I think fasted cardio is great, but I've just had much better success with doing fasted cardio because I think of it as like a debit system. So like if you're already starting the day off in so much debt, it is very hard for you to catch up to your calorie burned, right? And then for like health and stuff, I used to do wind sprints, but like my knees have gotten a little too weak, or more accurately, my upper body has gotten too heavy for the rest of my body, and my knees have degraded over time because of that. Um, in general, yeah, I do a lot of cardio. Particularly this year, I have basically doubled to tripled my cardio, and that's why I'm actually looking somewhat vascular today. But I did train legs, and that always blows my obliques up because of stability. So I'm looking a little bloated there, but you know. BD equals baby daddy. No, BD was big dick. Uh, um, so BD 1996-2015 was literally a burner account for porn, and I started to post on that with a joke for you, and then I realized I was kind of good at this PE stuff, so that kind of just stuck around with that account because I already had like a history with it. If I could go back, I would choose a different name, but you know, it is what it is. Is 22% BMI obese? So I think you meant body fat, and no, it is. So 25% body fat is going to be overweight, 30% body fat is going to be obese, I believe, in men. Um, Average is going to be between 18% and 25%, from what I remember. And then lean is going to be, or I guess there's another age called fitness. Fitness is going to be between like 14 and 17%. And then lean is going to be, actually, no, scientifically it's called athletic. It's going to be 6 to like 12%. So it just depends like what you're going off of. But in general, fitness is going to be the biggest like physical look with muscle tone. Hey, Destroyer. I really got to get lifting. I've already been talking for 27 minutes. Okay. So, Pathon. Does Tunica malleability also lessen the risk of injury. So think about it from a like exercise perspective. Does stretching and warming up lower the chances of hurting your pecs doing bench press? Yes. You're going to be similar to that. You are basically getting the tissues untense or relaxed before we try to manipulate them, and that's going to remove a lot of like pushback and fight in the tissues originally. Now, would it stop pelvic floor strain? No. Would it stop try to think, nerve damage? Maybe a bit, because you won't have as much fight in the tissues, but in general, it's a good idea to do some of it. That being said, I probably haven't done release in quite a while, because once you get the tissues quite relaxed, they stay relaxed. Whew. Okay, let's see. Okay, glans cap going half the shaft. So if you do it that way, Farmer Rick, you are going to be predominantly targeting base girth. And there's also a lot less nerve density down in the bottom portion of the shaft. So if you're limiting the expansion on top, you won't be feeling the expansion nearly as much on the bottom. Caramel. Last advice you gave me was to take a month off. Only problem is I'm having a child in March, meaning I might have to stop PE altogether. How can I maximize my gains within the next few months? Depends on what you've been doing, but like I have been seeing like absolutely crazy results with retention. Retention and vibrations have literally like doubled my rate of gain. And the best part is like it's kind of like cumulative interest. So the more often I do the retention stuff, the more rewarding each individual session is after the fact. So like I'll pump up at the night, so I'll have a bit of that flaccid fullness when I wake up, and I'll pump up again, even bigger than with no edema. So if you follow this to the conclusion, if you have a lot of tissue to stretch and manipulate, you can put on a lot of size pretty quickly. I don't want to put a number on it because I've literally only been doing it this way for like 6 weeks, but like to me it's like I have a completely different dick. Mr. Tula. I am planning to start doing cardio. I'm doing 30 minutes of Stepmaster 3 days per week. I know it's not that much, but I'm doing any cardio. I'm not doing any cardio, just wait. So first of all, Stairmasters kick my ass. That is relatively intense cardio. In my opinion, you're probably better off starting with something that's a little less intense, like an elliptical or treadmills, and then you can build up to the Stairmaster. But like for me, Stairmasters just suck, and I don't think they're very sustainable long term. And the key to success with fat loss is sustainability. So like making it as easy as possible for you to get your ass in the gym is going to be your best bet. Now, if you enjoy the Stairmaster because you got something broken in your brain, go for it. I'm just speaking from my own experience that when I use the Stairmaster, I hated every second of it. Oh, thanks, Destroyer. I hope I'm looking lean. I've lost 5 pounds in the past 2 weeks. The problem is like this damn gut still. And this is not. There we go. Do you think Ray is? Do you think Hank is Rey Mysterio? If anything, he ate Rey Mysterio. I think Rey Mysterio was only like 5'7", maybe 5'4". I can't remember. But no, I know exactly what Hank looks like. And he has a uncanny resemblance to a few people. That's all I'm going to say. I hear that too, but it's just 90 minutes per week. I just do weights right now. So whenever you do your weightlifting, and I'm going to bring this up so you can see my face. Whenever you do your weightlifting, I would highly recommend just get in the habit of doing 10 minutes of cardio before and after. So like if you're like me and doing cardio or lifting weights 5 to 6 days a week, you're doing 2 hours of cardio because you're doing 20 minutes times 6, 120 minutes, 2 hours. And it's much less mental work that way, right? Because like, oh, I'm warming up with the treadmill or whatever, and then I'm going to cool down with the treadmill, and I don't have to force myself to do it because it's just right there and it's what I do. It's part of your everyday routine. But like if it's working for you, I'm not going to stop you. I'm just telling you what I would personally do. Hello, Hitman. Hi, Tony. I decided to be an adult and decided to buy Vitality and Safeguard. There was no shield available on Amazon. Don't get me started on that. Okay. So I went back and forth for months with Amazon because they said inflammation was a disease. And then I sent them products that they have listed right now saying that they are treating inflammation, literally selling 10,000 units a month. They're allowed to be on the site, but my nerve support supplement that also helps with inflammation and that's part of treating nerve pain is not allowed on the site because it treats disease. And there's a whole can of worms, but basically, if you're going to be having customer service, particularly for businesses in a certain country, that customer service should be based in that country. I have no problem with the international order. What I do have a problem with is making it next to impossible to get help with business specific issues, because like there's a bit of a language barrier between me and the help staff at Amazon because they're all in India. India or English is probably their second language and they probably don't understand the context of inflammation the same way we understand it. So they're treating it as a disease, but if you ask an American, it's not, right? So anyway, that's why it's not on Amazon. It is on Leviathan Wellness or Leviathan Stops right now. BD, I've been doing PE for some times now. I was able to achieve great gains. Now I have 2 weeks of interrupted time on my hands. Would you recommend me to make full use of the time regarding girth gains? Your content and contributions have been a blessing. Well, thank you. First of all, why would you change what you're doing if it's working quite well, right? Now, if you want to try something different, by all means, go for it. I have no problems with that. But like, if we're going to be honest, all you can really do in 2 weeks is maybe gain 1% of tissue. I personally would use that time off to focus on something else that you've been putting off. For example, a house project, some kind of new hobby, old hobby you want to get back into, something like that. And I think I'm behind chat, aren't I? I still need to tighten those bolts. Okay. JD, is tunica malleability only effective when done semi-erect, or should I focus or do it flaccid? Depends on the exercise. So, semi-erect bends, BFR massage, and tunica shears or diamond jokes, same thing. All need to be semi-erect just to make sure you get the adequate pressure in the tunica to have the relax. Basically, that came out as utter gibberish, so give me a second. Son of a bitch. Yeah, I really need to retighten this. What is going on here? But anyway, was tunica release being done semi-erect? So, the tissue needs to be expanded somewhat to actually work the tissue. And that's because this is twisted. What the fuck happened? So, if we don't have any kind of expansion in the tunica, we're not going to be really able to work the tissues as much. So think about working a muscle. If we're going to work on it, we're going to want to have it somewhat engorged, right? Because otherwise we're just kind of moving around a wet bag. Same thing goes for your dick. AR, is it too much to do pumping 10 minutes of hypoxic clamping once or twice per week? My goal is to focus on girth. So if you're only pumping once or twice a week, you're not really going to see gains. The hypoxic clamping is done once or twice a week. That's fine. But pumping is going to be a 4 to 5 day a week affair. potentially every day if you work it in as feeder sets like I do. That feels better. I don't know how that got so twisted. And like, you guys see what I do with this. Like, I only use this stuff on stream right now. Where the fuck did I put that protein shake? I might have to run upstairs. Also, would you include vibrating with the stuff above? It would depend on your level. If you've done PE for 6 months and had success with it, you can add in vibration slowly. I don't really recommend it just because I don't know how everyone responds but myself yet. But give me 1 second, guys. Do you know where I put my protein shake? Thank you. Shit. Okay, sorry about that. I don't know if you were able to hear me upstairs, but anyway, vibrations. 10 minutes to start if you're brand new to it. You can work up to 30 minutes, but if you're going to be using it with pumping, you only really need 20 minutes. You got to be taking about a minute off every 10 minutes to make sure that you're not going to damage your nerves. BD, can I send you the vibration technique extending on the same day? So, yes, but limit to your total exposure to 30 minutes. So 15 and 15. Excuse me. 15 and 15. Or, personally, I would do whatever you want more first. So, like, if you want more length, do all your extension with vibration and then pump afterwards. Like, I'm still gaining girth at the same time while mainly doing length focus because of how much I'm doing pumping. But at the same time, there's going to be a bleed over effect of the effects of vibrations in the secondary. So that's what I would mainly do. You doing deadlifts and squats as well? Not right now. I've been trying to get back into squats, but like I just been having a myriad of like tippy-tappy injuries. So like I tried to do barbell lunges yesterday and I had a bubble in my knee, so I'm gonna have to give that a week to like work itself out. Deadlifts are a bit hard for me here in particular because I only have like 400 pounds and my max is 500, so I can't really do that here. And squatting's a bit difficult because the floor is sloped, so it takes a bit more balance. So everything I'm doing right now is just like classic bodybuilding without putting too much load on my lower back. Mega Snow. Mega Snox. Hey, appreciate the community work. I've heard to do zone 2 cardio at least 30 minutes in a row. Depends what you're going for. That's going to be fantastic for fat loss. Like, if you can pull that off 5 days a week and just, like, you know, avoid sugars, you're going to do pretty good with fat loss. But for penis enlargement or, like, erection quality, you probably want to get zone 3 a couple times a week because that's going to teach your heart to beat faster and harder. And that's what's going to help with erections long term, is that ability to, like, turn up the gearing. This one. I'm just making sure I got them all, guys. So Hitman, if this is about Leviathan supplements, go to leviathansubs.com if you're looking for that. And can you critique my routine that I'm going to start tomorrow doing? Hanging for a few minutes, makeshifts, pumping for 30 minutes, then wear a cock ring for about 30 minutes as well. You probably don't need 30 minutes of cock ring wear right after the fact. That might be a decent way to get lymphatic issues. I've been having great success at 10 to 15 minutes right after pumping. You're probably better off doing another pumping set right before bed with the cock ring if you want more time to stand it. But in general, you're probably on the right track. I don't know if I want to do pull-ups today, guys. I am so tired. And I need to calibrate this thing. Come on, thank you. There's a reason why I prefer to use that side. AR, had to type it earlier. I meant it would be extending 5 days a week and soft clamping. Yeah, so your routine's fine if you've been doing PE for that long. If you wanted to add vibrations to it, you're probably good. Just remember, only 30 minutes total. And if you're going to be doing it with, say, extending, for example, you probably won't need to extend for more than 30 minutes because of how much you'll elongate. I think these AM workouts for arms every day has been helping a lot just by looking at the, I guess it's the live preview, but I don't know if it's where I live, but like I swear every guy that goes to the gym has like unrealistically big arms. And I don't know, it's just my insecurity because I was made fun of for having like tiny arms as a teenager because I played basketball and it just didn't grow into my frame yet. But I swear every guy I see is nothing but biceps and never has any legs or back development. And I bet it kind of depends if you take off your shirt in the summer or not. So like here in Pittsburgh, there's not much reason to take your shirt off in the summer, so they're just going to focus on the arms. And then I guess like Miami, you're going to be focusing on the abs more than anything else. But anyway. Am I correct to assume that you shouldn't do feeder sets if you still have a little edema? See, that's tough to say because like what constitutes as a little edema, right? So like I'll wake up pretty engorged still with my feeder sets AM and PM, right? I'll still pump up, but like that edema doesn't necessarily expand with it if it's like under the skin, I noticed. So play around with it, but like if your edema just keeps excessively getting bigger and bigger each time, then you probably want more time between sessions. AR, what is the science between a feeder set? Okay. Nutrient delivery. First, that was the first idea with it. The more often we can pull blood into the tissues in high quality leads to more chances of passive diffusal, and that's what's going to lead to nutrient delivery to connective tissues like the tunica albuginea. Then, what has been the biggest update for me is that chronic dilation at lower pressures is going to cause shape change rather than new tissue formation. So like if you've been doing PE for a while and you probably build up a lot of tissue, but it's not necessarily laying as optimally as it could be. Feeder sets are going to stretch out that tissue enough to slowly pull it into place. And then since you're going to be pumped up more often, the shape will slowly change to be this bigger, thicker shape. That's why I've been doing feeder sets, because it gives more chances of being big, essentially. And then the more often you're big, the more likely the shape is going to change to that bigger state. And that's why I've been training my arms like a madman, like every day. And for some reason, it seems to be working quite well. Sorry, I keep seeing myself in the video camera here. I'm getting a bit excited because I just wanted big arms for a while. Last set of this, and then I'll probably do lat pull downs and cable rows because I'm just not feeling it. Probably could have went a little slower on that. Now, puffin, okay, we did that one, Hitman. I'm just going to get a string, probably like a wrist wrap thing, and tie 2 to 5 pounds to it and wait. I mean, you can get rope at a hardware store pretty easily. I literally made like a little hanger thing out of zip ties. I used that for well over a year and a half. I just needed a piece of metal and some plastic. V, do you still do 10 minutes hypoxic clamping a few times a week? I personally do not. Been stretching and pumping since the start of the year, but clamping scares me like I might accidentally kegel and break my frank. So I haven't done it in a while, particularly because I haven't seen the need for it. My erection quality has been stellar all year. There's no real sign for me to need to do that. If you get enough stimulus from pumping, you won't need it. Now, there's an argument to be made that since I'm wearing a cock ring after pumping practically every time, I'm getting some hypoxia buildup that way. And therefore, I don't really need any more hypoxic stimulant. I guess my next question is how long does it take for certain things to ship when you order from Leviathan? Leviathan's completely in stock. So at most a 2-day processing time on the weekend. So like if you order Friday and my shipper already did it that morning, you're gonna have to wait till Monday for it to go out. But it's usually Monday, Wednesday, Fridays when we ship. We need to get a few more shippers involved, but that's the release schedule. So it's gonna be no more than 1 business day before it ships. And it's gonna be anywhere from 1 day to 5 days, depending how far you are from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Amazon's going to be much faster because it's literally tracked throughout that. But you also get like $2 or $3 cheaper on Leviathan because Amazon takes 15% of each sale. So basically, we had to raise the price like 10 to 15% on Amazon to make it work for us. But we kept the prices lower on Leviathan because it's just not fair to you guys to just raise costs for no reason. Okay, we're setting up for this. No pain, no gain, infinite is actually a very bad saying, especially for penis enlargement. And the correct answer is going to be along the lines of intensity. It should be intense, but tolerable for penis enlargement. For bodybuilding, pretty much the same idea. Like, you want to be a bit sore after your workouts or a bit tired, but you never really want to be dead. Like, I used to train like a maniac back when my body dysmorphia was worse. And I think the amount I used to train impacted how much muscle I actually gained. So, like, basically, if you think just trying harder than last time is going to be the main effect, it's not going to like actually lead to better results. It's just not how our body works. Our body needs time to recover. If you're overworking every single time you lift, you are not going to be able to build enough tissue optimally. And at a certain point, you'll be so fatigued that the muscle will start breaking down. So like this year, I've actually been doing a little bit less work than normal because, like, let's be real, I'm jacked. I don't really need to get any bigger. So paradoxically, my muscle mass has gotten much higher, particularly my upper body mass, because I haven't been training it as much. So even though I'm probably doing about 80% of my normal workload, I put on a lot more muscle mass comparatively speaking. How much feeder pumping do you do for your arms every morning? Do it at night too, because I'm a torso dominant individual. Spider physique is tragic. I wouldn't say I'm a spider, but more accurately, I have a gigantic rib cage and then like normal-ish sized arms. And then I just have huge Scottish legs. Like, it's just on my dad's side, and he's very Scottish and very Slovak. But anyway, as I was saying, I am just doing 3 to 4 sets of lateral raises of some variation, 3 to 4 sets of some kind of tricep pull down, and then 3 to 4 sets of whatever bicep curl. And I guess I'm throwing in forearms as well. And that's going to be 2 different exercises, 3 sets each in a superset. Particularly, I'll show you in a second what I'm doing for that. But yeah, I can adjust this without getting up. Yeah, it's been about 2 weeks at most. I don't want to say I gained new tissue, but the tissue that I have, like arm tissue, is just a lot fuller. So like I just look pumped more often. And then I think just because there's a bit more pressure in my musculature, my veins are slowly getting a bit bigger as well. I'm not really going for like fatigue either at this point. It's literally just getting a lot of blood into the muscle to like chasing the pump almost. This is when I normally, I guess like if we're talking about the short term, and that just popped out, that's fun. In the short term, I've been focusing this as my main workout, so I'll come back and do like a moderate amount of tension on whatever arm muscle group I'm supposed to hit with whatever other muscle group I'm supposed to hit. But in the morning, it's strictly just getting blood into the muscles before I do cardio. And I gotta figure out what happened to that clip. Have you ever tried Jefferson curls? It makes your spinal erectors look huge after a bit. Let me Google that. No, I have not. Remember, so trying to figure out a good way to explain this. Perv calls it I'm a high back puller, which means when I develop tension for deadlifts, for example, my ass is quite high compared to most people. So like it's mostly because of my femur length compared to my torso. I gotta get this camera lower. But like, so like if I was gonna pull tight, all right, and most people would be like right here, I need to be about here. So it's more so that my ass doesn't get any leverage in this lower position compared to here. And therefore, when I do like bend over stuff, it becomes very heavy spine loading and not so much hip hinge movement. And that's what the main point of the Jefferson curl is that hip movement, I believe. You know, the hip hinge to teach you correct lifting mechanics. And while I'm not saying that I can't do it, I just think it'd be very hard for me to do properly. So what I really need to work on is good mornings to like teach my ass to go back before I start trying to add in a bend in the spine while I do it. Thoughts on turkestostone? Been using for a few months. I noticed my muscle gains helped me for PE as well. Made EQ much better. I think it's overhyped, if I'm being completely honest. Good way to put it, if it was actually really good, Hank would have been really pushing for it because he follows Greg Doucette, and Doucette sells it. I'll just have to get a little creative right here to keep this in place. But anyway, Doucette sells it. The problem is like he kind of makes it seem better than it really is. Any plant-based steroid like that, that's how they word it, is not going to be nearly as effective as the real stuff. But like if you're seeing results from it, man, good for you. I just think there are better supplements on the market for it. That should work. How would we send a private message? I tried Insta. So for context, dude, there was a point where I was getting 20 private messages a day, and it became next to impossible for me to actually manage it. You could try Reddit if your problem's actually interesting. I will answer. But otherwise, you are better off posting on like r/gettingbigger, and someone else can help you. If you have like a very particular problem that you want to do privately, email help@peakmale-physique. Say BD said send you a message here, and then my team will get it to me, okay? But like if you don't have any sensitive issues that you don't want to bring up or that you don't mind bringing up publicly, you can just do it in chat. That'd be your best bet, to be honest, so I can answer you right now. Oh, could probably go up and wait on that too. Also, I'm not trying to get my back like much bigger because I don't know. It's starting to get a pain being this big, if I'm being honest. You don't want to cut to decrease the fat pad. No, you definitely do. It's just there's ways to target it specifically with like cavitation therapy, Antonio. Uh, like I personally don't see much movement on my fat pad naturally. Uh, like it's gonna take me another 10 pounds at least, so like that'd be another 5 percentage points on my body fat, which would roughly bring me below 10% body fat for me to lose like another quarter inch of my fat pad. So like categorically speaking, it'd be unhealthy for me to try to get a smaller fat pad through cutting if that was the goal. Now there are some people that are just going to be genetically I was said a triggering word, but genetically predisposed to bad fat pads, right? So they're going to need a bit more help with a bit more science to bring it down reasonably, and that's why I recommend cavitation for that. Is L-citrulline malate useful? Having trouble finding L-citrulline over here in the EU. L-citrulline malate and L-citrulline are pretty much the same thing. Malate adds something that helps with digestion for L-citrulline and that helps turn it into L-arginine, essentially. So for every 5 grams of L-citrulline, you want about 2 grams of malic acid. It does help with PE, but like I did PE for years without it and gained over an inch. You don't absolutely need it. The main thing it's really helpful for is avoiding discoloration because it's going to help cut down on like any little red dots and burst capillaries. At least in my opinion. Hink can give you a much more in-depth explanation on why you need it. Okay. Okay, so I bet just getting a juicy pump before starting the day, I'm rocking with it. Uh, so I had to change my schedule around to having to pump before anything else, I guess. So like I go to the gym and then I pump now, unless it's the weekends and all bets are off. But like it is quite uncomfortable doing cardio with like an 8-inch sausage bouncing up and down your pants. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend pumping before going to the gym for that reason, just because it gets in the way. Like it literally gets in the way. But city NMN is still a thing. I believe so. I remember the government's made companies stop the production of it. Shit, what was that? They just NAC, they just like declassified as a drug essentially, and we put it in Shield, I believe. Maybe it was Safeguard. Those two are practically identical in my mind because they practically treat the same thing: fibrosis and soft tissue and nerve support, all the same umbrella. But if I'm right, Hank's been talking about it for like months for now for like memory improvement and everything else, I believe, or focus. I do not believe it is banned. If it is, we're gonna have a problem. Since you bought Safeguard and Vitality Hitman, you can take them at the same time. There's going to be absolutely no complications. The main thing is, and like there is no main thing. There are completely different supplements, completely different pathways, completely different purposes. If you're taking like virility and vitality, maybe there's an issue because virility will mess with sex hormones a bit, not as much as vitality. But it's pretty much safe to say that if there was going to be some kind of conflict, we would have let you know well in advance on our website. Okay. Adam, I'm touching the sides on the top and the top. It's time for a new tube, but there's some space underneath. Should I go up in pump size? Okay, I've misunderstood you. So you're saying you're touching all three sides of the cylinder except the bottom. I would personally go up. And practically speaking, your penis is more shaped like this than like this. There's going to be some variance in that, but like in general, the corpus cavernosum is an oval, and that's what's going to be most of your girth. Limiting expansion of that is going to lead to less girth gains overall. Now, you can get thicker this way by limiting the expansions on the top and sides, but I don't think that's actually overly stimulating for anyone involved with sex with you, whether it be male or female. So, personally, I would go up, and particularly for comfort reasons, I would go up as well. Okay, I'll get to that hard-hitting question here after this set. 1, 2, 3. Sorry, I'm trying to figure out my footing. I divide. Okay, blah blah blah. Dart and Nihilus. I'm assuming that's a Kodor reference. Anyway, developed mild pudendal neuralgia 3 weeks into PE career. Was extending with 3 to 4 pounds, resting for 2 months. Pain is not bad at all, just mild. I'm just bummed it took so long to heal. So, not saying to buy Shield, but like that stuff is literally designed to help with that kind of neuropathy. So you can look at the active ingredients on that, mimic it, or you can just get Shield. Additionally, if you have pain, that is a good thing because that means the nerves are still trying to figure itself out. You could try light tissue massage. So let's say you develop some minor bit of fibrosis around the nerves, and I realized how high up that was. But let's say you develop some minor fibrosis around that nerve in particular. It could be stuck in like a less than desirable shape. So like whenever you put any kind of tension or pressure on that nerve, it kind of shocks itself almost. So if you slowly work around the area of pain, you don't want to be like in searing pain while you do it, but like expect a little bit of minor discomfort when you start and just work the tissue a bit and see if that relaxes and helps with it. That might be your best bet right now. Because it'd be a little weird for it to be causing pain like that without any like long-term damage. Wait, hold on, let me reword that. It'd be weird for it to be causing pain like that if it was not properly functioning to begin with. It's more so it's kind of like stuck in a state where it's going to be sending off pain receptors more than anything else. That's the best I got. That's a better question for Hank than me. Golden Mine. At what size does diminishing returns for dudes with length and girth? Like, you mean like sexual pleasure? It really depends on how your brain's wired. Like for me, sex is better when I am bigger. It is my fetish. My wife enjoys the size for the most part. There's sometimes it can be a bit much, but for the most part, she's really into it. For a normal guy, expecting a normal woman to have the same response every single time, like we're talking like the population, it doesn't really make sense to get to super big sizes because that's when it's going to be very hard to find a lot of partners to work with. So the colloquial, I guess it's not colloquial, but the general rule for big as you can get without being issues for sex, 7.5 by 5.5. You're going to be Magnum XL size essentially. But like 10 to 20% of women you're going to be too big for, because the average vaginal depth aroused is 5 inches, just like a penis. There's going to be the exact same kind of variance in vaginal depth. So there's going to be as many 3 inches long penis as there's going to be 3 inches deep vaginas. So like it's like a 1 in 100 chance to be having like a less than 4 inch penis, I believe. Might be a little smaller than that, but the same thing goes for women though, that they'll have, there's less than 100, 1 in 100% chance, less than 1 in 100 chance of a vagina being that short, but that's still pretty common in a mass population. Anyway, there's a lot more blood in my back and biceps than my brain right now, if you can't tell. Okay, Antonio, my issue is that I want to be bulky, but I also want my D to be all the way out and not buried. Okay, take it from experience. My experience, I was 160 all the way up to 230. The mistake is thinking that the size of your body is going to make you more attractive, essentially. So like I rushed my way up to 225, but really what happened is I gained a shit ton of body fat, and it took me years to like actually get to a point where I looked athletic again. So in my opinion, you do not want to overbulk ever. That being said, you don't want to be super skinny as well. So like you can expect that you need to gain about 5% body fat to gain a decent bit of muscle, but you shouldn't plan for more than that. If you can't reasonably gain, let's say, more than 5 pounds of tissue in a month and expect it to not be mostly fat, you can only reasonably put on at like newbies, no steroids, 1 pound a week of muscle for your first year. And that's going to be substantial. That's going to be like, that might actually be too much if I'm thinking about it out loud. Like you could probably put on 2 pounds of lean muscle every year as a natural. And that's going to be good for your first 3 to 4 years. So like thinking about compounding interest, 4 years, you could put on about 25 to 40 pounds of muscle, depending on like how naturally big you are. That's going to be substantial. That's going to take you a couple shirt sizes. But trying to rush it is just going to make it that you lose that muscle mass that you built with when you're cutting. So it doesn't really make sense. Now, I was doing dumbbell rows. Or not dumbbell row. Whatever this is called. Cable rows. Go Hono. For progression, we are adding 1 5-minute stretch in the high tension extender until we get up to 8 eventually. That is how I teach it typically. However, if you are seeing results at the lower weights, there is no need for you to go up in weight or time. For example, I've been doing 30 minutes of extending every day. I'm growing like a fucking weed. Granted, that's probably because of vibrations. You can do the same thing without vibrations. It'll just be at a slightly slower scale. And am I on the wrong side again? Son of a bitch. There we go. Again, guys, my head is kind of elsewhere right now. So I'm going to try to finish this up relatively quickly, but, you know, no promises. Trancus, do you think about an automatic pump doing 3 sets, 5 minutes a day? And rest for 5 minutes. There's no reason to rest that much between sets with 5-minute sets. Like you can need only about 2 minutes of rest at most. Mostly you just need to get erect again, and that's going to take about a minute or two to get to like peak erection. That's going to be really good for erection quality in your first couple months, but I would not expect, and I feel like I'm behind the chat again. We'll go this way. Anyway, I expect that you'll need to increase that relatively soon within the first 2 or 3 months. Good evening from North Las Vegas, Nevada. Dude, it is like 1 p.m. in Nevada, but hello. Thank you for your beginner's guide to grow up. I'm looking forward to using the creams for PE. Oh, you commented already. But yeah, thanks for your purchase, man. I do appreciate it. I'm hoping you get what you want from that book. I noticed that while I was doing the video presentation for that, there's some stuff I need to add. So hopefully I can do that this month or next. But in general, it should be a great help. Okay, so I move this over. And I'm going to plug my laptop back in. Why are you guys reacting? Let's see. Okay, so now I know not to use the ring for 30 minutes after pumping. I haven't gotten any issues yet, so hanging for 5, pumping for 30, and then ring work for 20. Okay, I mean, sure, but I think, if I'm being completely honest with you, I don't know why you're hanging. And then that pumping's probably fine. It's just the longer you wear the ring, the more likely there is going to be lymphatic issues. So like, it's kind of like, the best way to put it is it just increases your risk. You won't necessarily get it, but like, there's a good, it just increases your risk rate. So like, instead of being like a 1%, you'll be at 5%. There we go. Okay, hold on. Where can we find and how should we structure time pressure, etc. on feeder sets? I actually haven't written this out other than in my books. You don't have to buy my books. It's on the to-do list for the 2 to 3 videos I have to make a week. Oh my god, I'm so fucking busy. But basically, normal fatigue set or normal fatiguing work, just some point midday is how I've been doing it. And then AM and PM, you do your feeder sets. They should be about 6 hours apart for pumping. And then, if you can't do 2 feeder sets in a day, just move your last working session to later in the evening, and that'll count as your feeder set. The main thing is you want chronic dilation is particularly helpful when you go to bed. Okay. Work. Okay, we did that one. Henley. When using a cock ring after pumping, I can use a ring at the base and mid shaft. I'm narrowest below the gland, so I want to concentrate the grip on that area. So, I think, structurally speaking, almost everyone's going to be the most narrow under the glands, because what happens is the corpus cavernosum, we'll do it this way, goes like that to a point, and then the glands go over it. So like, depending on how steep that angle is, everyone's going to have some kind of shape like that. And then it just depends on how big their glands are to cover up that shape. For me, I get relatively thin right below my glands. It used to be worse. But the main thing I did was I've been limiting how much expansion I get at the base. So like, I'm using a tube that is a bit too small for my base to expand. Therefore, all my midshaft grows instead of the base. And that's what's going to fill in that gap. At least that's what it did for me. I don't think you need to be putting on an additional ring in the shaft to like boost results, essentially. BD, someone made a post on your gains you had in 2022 to 2024. So I try to look at it like on my normal Reddit account. I didn't see it, but like I don't really care. So in 2019 to 2020, I didn't gain much. 2021 to 2022, I measured like an asshole. 2022, I did standing and then I went to seated for some stupid fucking reason, which messed up my measurements. And then I was a little off with the ruler. So like, I know my measurements haven't been perfect. I've accepted criticism on my measurements, and that's why I measure differently now. So I said I was probably close to 9 inches at some point in 2022. I was measuring wrong. Am I measuring wrong now? No. It was literally because I was full of myself, not necessarily because I was trying to lie to people, but because I wanted to believe so bad that I was that big, that I believed that I was that big. And that's really all it comes down to. People can throw me under the bus if they want, but like, I've helped thousands of guys at this point. I don't do this to show off my size. I do this to help people. And particularly the reason why I don't go that much on Reddit anymore is because of people like them that only care about tearing others down. Sorry guys, I don't like talking about drama too much anymore just because it's so exhausting. Let's see. If you have not done it already, can you do a deep dive into BFR massage? So if you just go on r/getting bigger and look up BFR massage, there's a minute video showing a tutorial on how to do it. And then in my most recent manuals guide, I explain it pretty well there too, in a safe for work fashion. So, Christopher, if I would actually recommend doing a little bit more weightlifting. You're not going to bulk up that much if your diet isn't made to carry that much muscle mass, right? So like it will help with muscle tone and everything else doing weightlifting. But like if you don't have enough food to elicit growth, unless you're like a freaky responder, then all bets are off. You probably won't get that big. When can I integrate shape retention to my routine? I started Apex and pumping a month ago, 6 days a week. You could start it now. There's nothing fatiguing about it. That's kind of the entire point. You have two different types of tension profiles. You have low tension and high tension. High tension is going to train for new tissue. Low tension is going to train the existing tissue to take a certain shape. If you do both, you're going to maximize your chances of success. Can I still do ligament work during a decon? More than likely, Adam. Like, again, it's different tissue, so it shouldn't really matter all that much. You might stretch the shaft a bit, but like I don't think it's going to be enough work for it to like not break down the strength adaptation over time. Or if it's a weak decon that's deload, you're fine. You're good. Antonio, I used to be pretty thin below my glands, but then a bit early in PE, I got some pretty heavy edema. It isn't thin anymore, but it might still be injured. Okay. I'm not exactly sure what you mean by injured, but edema brings in nutrients, first of all. It also adds like some kind of protective layer to the inflamed tissue, to the damaged tissue. But in general, that edema is going to help train shape too, since it's some kind of internal pressure. And if, let's just say, it was stiff from like bad jerking habits, it'll kind of puff out. There's a good way to put it. All right, I'm going to do some bicep curls, even though I really don't need it at this point, but I got to finish the workout, and then I'm probably going to log off and then ask Greg what the heck everyone's talking about with this post. BD, I didn't start any discoloration from pumping until I started manual clamping. What should you do to clear your skin back to normal? Easy thing is stop doing PE, and then it'll return to normal after 6 months to a year. Now, that's a long time for a lot of people. You need to exfoliate the skin, which means pull up the layers of skin slowly over time to pull up that type of staining. It's not a bruise, it's literally like a stain of iron in your blood or in your skin. So the more skin layers you work up, the more of this iron staining comes up, and eventually it'll all be gone and your dick will look normal again. Some people do skin peels. It's a little rough, but like relatively safe if you start very light. I'm probably going to put 15. I'll do 25 and just get it over with. What are pulse stretches described in your beginner's guide? So basically, a lot of the old school people will call them piss pulls, right? Every time you go to the bathroom, pull for 10 seconds, release, pull for 10 seconds, release, do it for a minute. That's going to teach the tissues to stay elongated. Since you're peeing probably about, I don't know, 3 to 4 times a day, unless you got a bladder like a kitten, like myself, then we'll be doing it a bit more often. But the added chances of elongation like that is going to train the tissue to take that shape. That's all there is to it. It's just static stretches for about 60 seconds every time you pee. What would be the point of doing manual stretches if you have a traction device? Mainly if the traction device is too weak of tension to be used to generate odd new tissue. So like if you have a cheap extender, for example, manual stretches are going to be better at making new tissues. The extender itself will teach that tissue to take that shape. So something I never understood is why people would try to put 45s on the side while doing bicep curls. Because like my arms have never responded to strength like that. Like my triceps a little bit, but that's like dips, you know, something you can do for a relatively high volume. This is already a lot of work on the muscles, and trying to bring that up for strength, no thanks. But it's probably an ego thing, right? Okay, Mega Snox, what is the minimal routine you could recommend to gain girth? Is BFR massage and 15 minutes a month of pumping enough for you? Or not you? For me, I'm doing 20 minutes of pumping, interval pumping, and then some BFR massage, or more accurately, diamond jokes. That's enough for me. I've been doing PE for 10 years. I think a lot of people really screwed the pooch when it comes to training girth. They've taught everyone that you need to do a lot of time for girth, but really that's not the case. The stimulus happens very quickly. It's just that shape training is the issue. Donta, what are your views on ligament hanging and positioning your legs on your desk to maximize gain in a short period of time? This is a theory I know from Leon Longevity. It is partially accurate. The difference is that it's one of the easiest ways to gain, but there's tons of other ways to actually gain long term, and you're not really building new tissue. So BTC stretch is fine. You probably don't need more than 10 minutes a day of it, just practically speaking. Like I did 20 minutes of it a day when I first started, and I gained literally a quarter of an inch in like 6 weeks. So like when I started hanging, that is. So in general, it's useful, but like after your first 4 months of PE, you only really need to like touch it up once a year to make sure that ligament stays nice and elongated. And I don't know what it is about bicep curls, but it always makes my heart rate explode. Does calorie intake affect PE gains, and what are your favorite sources of protein? It will not necessarily impact PE gains unless you're like in starvation mode. So like we're talking a 30% deficit or below. Most of you guys will feel like shit well beforehand. I normally do steak and eggs. So like right now my breakfast is 8 ounces of steak, 3 eggs, cheddar cheese, spinach, potatoes. That's going to get me about 60 to 70 grams of protein. Then I have my trusty 50 grams of protein shake. There we go. And that's going to basically set me up to get just under 200 grams for the rest of the day of everything else I eat. You're too nice, Antonio. I think I finally started coming to terms to like how much space I take up lately. Again, like I don't think a lot of people that bodybuild realize how big they are until like they really start thinking about it. For example, I am like too big for an XL dress shirt, but an XL is too big because it's too big in the waist. Like double XL. And then like it's looking in the camera now, like I can't believe my arms are actually as big as they are because they were so scrawny, and like I still identify as a scrawny armed guy. Like because I don't want to say traumatized, but like taught that when I was in high school that I was scrawny, so like it's hard for me to see myself as big. And that's all I got. All right. Whew. Body dysmorphia is a bitch. It's not so much body dysmorphia now as it is just not realizing my own place. Like, so my FMI is like 26. Okay, that's exceptional. I am on testosterone, so that's part of the reason. So, the average guy is going to be about 20 from what I've read, and like the standard deviation is going to be about 1.8. So like my Z-score is going to be 3 something, which is going to put me in the 1 in 1,000th percentile. But since the only place I really interact with people is the gym, I don't realize it. And on top of that, since every American is obese, I don't realize that I'm actually quite muscular because I'm only looking at total body mass. And it makes it kind of difficult for me to go into terms with how much space I take up. It doesn't help that my business partner is like 6'5" and about my weight. So anyway, guys, I'm out of breath. Dinner is probably ready because it's 4 p.m. And I'll catch you in the next one, 2:30, same 2:30 tomorrow. My goodness, I am out of breath.